In this tutorial, we will look at how you can create a procedural piece of pottery in a couple of simple steps. In the second half, I'll show you how you can do something similar with traditional modeling. And as you will see, if you set up your procedural system correctly, it can really pay off in the end. You'll be able to adjust your model and create new variations very quickly. So first we're going to start with setting up our lights and materials. So just create an environment light, grab your favorite HDRI, plug it in, and then you can adjust the exposure. And if you don't want to see the background in your scene, just untick this checkbox and you can switch to lighter or darker themes, and that's it. And for the materials, let's go to your material palette, grab a clay material, drag it into the editor, drag it onto your model, and I like to make it a little bit more rough. And now we're ready to start modeling. Okay, so let's start by creating a curve from the side view. And I think we'll use just a standard NURBS curve. So just draw your shape. And you can add points by shift clicking on the curve, so don't worry. And adjust the profile so we have a solid base. And yeah, I started with a polygon curve, but I want to change it to a NURBS curve, so it's more smoother, as you can see. And now I need to convert it to polygons. And what's great is that with this U slider, now I can control the density of the divisions. And with this division slider, I can control another set of divisions. Yeah, and we have our basic shape for our little piece of pottery. Now we can adjust the profile, but we can do it as well later. Okay, now, and if you want to, you can extend the bottom of the curve to the middle and you'll get a complete shape, but I decided to add a few more nodes, my custom nodes, so that I have more control over how the bottom is kept. So now I'm trying to just group some edges. So I don't want to cap the bottom and the top. I just want to cap the bottom. So that's why I grouped just only the bottom half of the pottery, and now I can use this group to cap just the bottom. And I'll use triangle fan and disable the deform patch option. Now this is pretty good, but I want to add some more divisions to it. So for me the easiest way was to use poly extrude, and I want to use the same group I used before and just use some local divisions and scale it to 0. Sorry, not local divisions, local transform. So I can transform the bottom edge ring to 0, but as you can see my group has also this side edges, so I need to find a way to procedurally get rid of them. And a way to do this is just duplicate our group. We can enable unshared edges, which will group open edges, and we can make an intersection with the previous group, and now it all works. And if we add some divisions to our poly extrude, we can get more control over how the bottom is kept. And now let's just add a fuse. So since we just scale it together, now we need to fuse the points in the center. All right. And let's add some thickness to our pottery. We can use some poly extrude node for this. And we can add a little bit divisions to the edges. And don't forget to tick the output back, so you get also the inside faces. Now let's add some subdivision node, so we get a little bit smoother geometry. And we got ourselves a nice little piece of pottery. Now let's just add some more details. Alright, so let's create another curve for our handles, and we'll start with quite inside of our pottery, so we can delete the parts we don't need. And we'll use polywire to add thickness to this curve. We can change the divisions to something like 16, and let's do the same with it with the previous curve. Let's just convert it, but first let's make it an ellipse curve so it's smooth. Now we can convert it and control our divisions. So we can adjust the shape a bit. Okay, and now we need to make some fancy connection with our handle. So let's use our basic shape, and we're gonna use Boolean node for this. And now we need to subtract, and let's handle the set A as a surface so we don't get capped ends. And just to be sure, we can put some polyfill on our basic shape, so just to be sure, so we have a solid surface. To make it more bulletproof. Alright, and one thing I want to do is that I don't want the handle to be clipped just at the surface. I want to have it clipped a little bit further away from the surface, so we can add the shapes that are connecting to the base shape. So we'll use a peak node for it. So we'll push the surface along its normals. So now our handle gets clipped a little bit away from the surface. Just a touch. Yeah, so something like this will do. And now we need to again group the open edges, so we can use group node for this, uncheck the base group, change it to edges, and check include edges, unshared edges, and we can rename our group. And now we can use it with an poly extrude node to extrude it a bit outward. We'll set it to handle edges. Now transform extruded, and we'll transform it in local. So just push it a little bit inside, and let's scale it a bit. And we can also add one more division. Okay, and now it would be good to smoothen out the shape. Okay, we'll do some more adjustments. This part needs a little bit tweaking, and now we can use a smooth node to smoothen up the ends a bit. And now I need to get again the edges, the open edges, because I want to use a ray node so that the ends are projected on the surface, so they'll stick right to the surface, so we don't get any space between our handle and the base shape. And it looks like we need to change the group from edges to points. And now it works. As you can see, our edges are snapping to the surface, so we get a tight fit. Alright, looks great. And you can tweak the shape a bit, play and see what you like. More divisions, less divisions, and see what works for you. And this is the great thing about Houdini, like whenever you feel like you want something different, you just go back and adjust a few parameters, and there you are. Okay, so we can mirror our handle to the other side. Just use mirror, set the correct direction, which in this case is in Z axis. And there we have it. This is our little piece of pottery. And now we can add some surface detail to the main body. We can use a mountain sub to create some indents. Now we don't have enough resolution. This is why we get these ugly sticking out points. So let's add a few more. Maybe a little bit more. Right. Now it looks like our mountain sub is a bit strong. So we need to play with the size a bit, play with the scale. And in case you don't want this like nasty selections to show in your viewport, you can just pin your tab and deselect the nodes. Like this. And if you pinned your tab, it won't disappear. Now you can adjust the parameters without any distractions. Alright, this looks great. And we can add some noise to our handles as well. And I forgot to unpin the tab, so let's just undo real quickly. Now we can adjust some parameters to get our look for the handles. Yeah, and these are just the final touches. Once you're happy with your noise, you can call it a day and your piece of pottery is done. And if you need to make another one, another shape, you'll just go back to your curves which you made, and you can create a whole new piece of pottery. And if you feel like it, you can adjust thickness on the handles, adjust the noise, and you can get as much variations as you need. So this is the procedural way, and let's have a look at how you could create something like this with traditional modeling in Houdini. So let's start with a circle. We can change the divisions to something like 8, so we get something more manageable. And now let's just grab the edges and use some poly extrude to extrude the faces. We can then transform them to its place. And like the basic standard modeling. Another extrude and some transformations. Extruding and transformations again. And we'll have this basic shape. You can use polyfill to get a triangle cap at the bottom. Bevel the edges. Create a nice rounded bevel. Now I can just disable the deform patch. And let's just plug in the little subdivide node so get a nice smooth geometry. And now if you want to adjust your shape, you just go back and transform the edges. And as you can see, like this is how you would shape your piece of pottery with traditional methods. And as you see later, I think it's much harder to manage density and the overall shape, and it's just more tedious and difficult. It might be more intuitive, but for me it feels like there's a lot of work that goes into the shaping. Whereas with the previous procedural system, I could just move some points on a curve and I got the result. Okay, and we can add some thickness to our pottery. Let us not forget to check the output back so we get both sides. You can also add one more division to get smoother edge of the pottery. Yeah, the edge looks a bit sharp. Could use one more division. Or an edge loop to hold the shape. And I think you start to see like how much more tedious it can get with the traditional modeling. You need to go back and forth, and it's just so much more complicated. And especially if you need to create more variations, you need to adjust the shape. Like suddenly you need to adjust a lot more parameters, and it feels just so much harder to do. And now I'm trying to create some handle. And same thing as before, just add some poly wire to get a thickness. And with this, we could basically copy what we did before for the procedural system, but I wanted to show you the more traditional way how things are done in 3D. Adjustments to the handle shape. I'm trying to get it as close to the surface as possible. So now we can just mirror it to the other side. Let us not forget that we are working on the z-axis. Use the same mountain saw to create details on the main body. And this is just a matter of playing with the parameters. And here's another moment where I felt like the procedural system is better. I needed to adjust my subdivisions or the density of geometry, and I felt like I don't get as much resolution. And once you start subdividing it, and you get a lot more polygons, or it just felt like I don't have as much control over the topology as in the previous one. But all in all, it's not looking bad. So these are two methods how you can create pottery in Houdini. For me, I really love the procedural one because, as you can see, it didn't took much longer to set up the system, and it felt like it's more powerful and you can make new variations much easily. In the traditional modeling method, you would have to select edge loops, take care of evening the topology, and make little adjustments here and there, and you will have to add up a lot of nodes. Whereas with the procedural one, you just have to modify the curve on the handles and of the main body, and that's it. And with the traditional one, you get curves, you get a new edge loops here and there, so it can get messy over time if you need to adjust the shape. But you seem like you can get there with pretty much both methods, so feel free to use which one you prefer. Alright guys, that's all. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.